Hello, Tips. We are live?
I can
I
hear
think we
you.
are live.
We should be live,
Great.
yes.
And I see the live banner at the top, so I think we are great. How are you doing, Tips? I see you mute yourself. Tips, you are mute. Can you hear me?
I had, in the classic
Okay.
fashion, muted me.
Yes.
Of course
Okay.
I had.
This is
I was just checking we were
simulation of-
actually live on YouTube itself. It's the traditional mistake to make at the beginning of a cast, of course.
Yes, totally. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Yeah, doing well. Not at all stressed out by being up early in the morning to do a live cast first thing. But
Totally.
you have all the work. I don't have any of the work, so that's cool.
No. I think we both have to work, as well as our audience, to learn some new stuff. And I have my coffee. I have actually like a nice cup.
That's
with,
okay.
with
I've had tea already. I've got water here if I need it.
It's cool.
Since
In the chat,
right.
I don't actually see. Yeah, for our viewers, could you put where you're coming from? I'm so curious, to be honest. This is the first time
So,
when I am personally running the stuff early in the morning. So I'm thinking like the distribution of the countries should be so interesting, and so at least for me, new.
So I'm over in Cambridge. So excuse me while I cough.
I'm
That's a good
in
place to
Berlin.
meet.
Yeah, that's actually very friends. Oh, hi, Sebi.
France.
Nice to see you.
And Lena from India, thank you very much. This is
India.
the reason
Where
we
in
try and
India?
run these at this time, so that people can come from
Totally.
what to us is the other side of the world, which is obviously we're the wrong side of the world for you.
That's true. Lena, tell us where from India. I have a trip in India in a couple of months, and I'm really looking forward to visit. Never been to India. Cool. So today's plan, we are going to build a movie recommendation system. Tips, do you often watch movies?
Not as much as I should. My wife and son tend to be the people who watch, and then I get dragged in when I hear what's going on and come and see what they're watching and get captured. So yes.
Yeah, I do like movies, but I don't watch them too often. But today we are going to explore some movie data set. Oh, I see that Lena comes from Delhi, and we have also Spacewise also from India. Cool. Yeah. I don't even know what time it is. Lena and Spacewise, what is the time for you right now? Is it evening or late evening? I'm so bad with time zones.
I should actually know that.
Yeah, me too. But I think because India has different time zones, so it's probably range.
I believe India is one of those places that doesn't do summertime, so should be 1:30 in the afternoon, according to my cheat sheet.
Cool.
Yes, I got it right.
It's lunchtime, so it's not really like super late. That's good. Cool. Oh, I see. So it's a lot of information. Tips. Are my slides visible? Can you see
have
them?
I not? Sorry, that's my fault.
Great. No. I'm also.
I have buttons here, and I was not paying enough attention. So
don't worry. It's good. It's two of us who have sometimes attention issues, and then together we
I was reading the chat, which is my only excuse.
Yeah. So movie recommender, and what does it mean? For kind of building a recommendation system, we have like different approaches. Sometimes, for example, we can analyze user activity. I don't know, let's take Sebi, and we can take what Sebi likes to watch, and then we will recommend a similar activity or similar type of movie to Sebi. But also we can take an approach which uses semantic search, and we will take that one today because with semantic search things can be very interesting. So this is what we will build at the end. By the end of the second hour, if you stay, you will build something like this where you can type what you want to see, and you will get recommendations. This system admittedly doesn't know your preferences. Like it will not know that for tips it should recommend, I don't know, what tips you like, some fantastic movies or maybe
Probably.
some historical movies. Or for me, it should recommend Harry Potter. But the system tries to get the information from the search query and understand and kind of predict what we mean by typing that information. So what is our intent and what is the contextual meaning of what we are typing? So we are describing what we want to see, and it tries to give us the best result. And this is what a semantic search is. So semantic search is a search that cares about the meaning, in contrast to the lexical search, where the search engine looks for literal matches of the query words or variants of those query words without understanding the overall meaning of the query. So semantic search is helping us improve the search accuracy, but understanding the searcher's intent, so our intent to find something like movies, and the contextual meanings of the terms. And machine learning, which is important for our today project, helps us to get meaning and context of the text, which will provide information about the movies, and convert it into numerical representation. So, and this is part where we rely on vector search. So semantic search actually can be done in different ways. So we are using vector search because it's probably one of the most easiest way, I think, like to implement semantic search with so many models, which are trained on kind of getting those kind of numeric representations of the text we will be processing. So we will focus on vector search today, but remember that semantic search can be actually a lot of different things, like some kind of graph databases are often used for semantic search, and some other stuff. Yes, so but what is vector search? Like let's now like move from the semantic search into a bit more deeper into the vector search and how exactly it works. So vector search is a way to find related objects, those objects that have similar characteristics. And we are using machine learning models, which kind of detect those semantic relationships between between different objects. And objects that can be like simple objects. For example, let's have a dress. Like a dress, and like we can kind of encode it, and let's say that this is a position on the two-dimensional space of our dress according to its characteristics. And then we want to have shoes, and let's say it's like kind of a elegant shoe, and it will be not far from the dress. I mean, it's different object, but it's kind of related. On the other hand, if we have a sporty shoes, it's a bit farther from the dress, but still close to the elegant shoe. And when we start adding different objects, like for example, we will add a dog. Dog and dress, I mean, they don't have so much in common, not so many common characteristics. So they will be positioned farther away, or guitar. And by putting all those objects or all those, maybe like it doesn't have to be actually like a simple dress, it can be a piece of text, like a description of a movie or something else. By arranging them, or like also images, for example, but by arranging them in some multi-dimensional space, and for us it is two-dimensional space, but what we will see later is that models work with way more dimensions. Then we can get the locations of those objects in that multi-dimensional space and transfer it into some kind of a matrix where we have the vectors. So our address will have 0, 0, our shoes will have like 0, 1, 1, 1, and so on. And then we can work with those locations, because we can find the distances. We can say, okay, like how much dress and bear are related. And then we get the distance and we can say, not so much there, like in different spaces. But some objects will be closer to each other. And this is exactly what we will be using as a basis for looking for the movies. So to kind of summarize it all, what we are going to do today, we are going to take a movie data set from Kaggle, and it's a movie data set with different like descriptions of the movies, and we are going to use a TensorFlow model, which has the universal sentence encoder to translate or to encode each of those movie descriptions into a vector representation, so into that kind of a dot on a multi-dimensional space. And in this case, actually, we will have not just 2 dimensions, it's like easy to understand for us, but models have way more dimensions. For example, TensorFlow has, this particular model has 512 dimensions, which is a lot. There can be more, there can be less, some models, so it all depends, but that's enough dimensions for us to kind of understand all this stuff later, so that the model can kind of arrange those properly, so we can find similarities between objects. Then we will use Postgres to store all those vectors in the stuff, and then Postgres has a very nice extension, pgvector, which allows to use Postgres as the vector database, so that we can use pgvector to find like distances and kind of say, okay, are the objects closer or farther away from each other. And on the other hand, we will have kind of an input where we are going to put the search phrase, something like, I don't know, a fluffy cat. And I want to see movies about fluffy cats. And then we will translate the search phrase again into a vector, a single vector which represents a search phrase. And now we can compare that single vector with all the stuff which is in the Postgres database, using pgvector extension, which will allow us to find like what is the closest vectors among all the movie information to our search phrase, to our fluffy cat, or whatever movie you would like to search for. So this is the plan. Tips, am I missing something? Probably not, but
no, that sounds fair to me. That sounds like what we want to do. This time I remember to unmute first. So
that's cool. Yep. And I do see that I see the conversation that Lena is into machine learning, and yeah, we have also Spacewise development and DevOps. Nice. Cool. Is TensorFlow JavaScript scalable for production? There are like different things which you need to keep in mind with JavaScript and machine learning. I would say depends how much load you have in production, and also how you can kind of distribute this. It's scalable, but that's probably like something which I want to talk maybe at the end, to compare JavaScript when it comes to machine learning to Python and maybe Java as well. So let's keep this to the end. But in short, I believe the answer is yes. Cool. So what do I have next? Yeah. So for the search phrase, for the interface, which we are going to use, we are going to have 2 options. So like actually we will start with simple stuff, so that we are not really too much into writing CSS code, and I'm really bad with design stuff. So we will start with just a simple command line interface. This makes things way easier. And then we will translate this into using a web interface, where we also try to make it way more efficient, maybe like also answering the question from Spacewise about the scalability and kind of reusing those objects, those models, so that we don't load model more than we need, and everything works faster.
I'm just saying you're better at design than I am. I'm the traditional programmer who you shouldn't let use user interfaces.
I love this kind of like doing the user interfaces, but people for some reason don't appreciate it. I mean, probably they have good reasons. Cool. And what we're going to use, so like to iterate, yes, we're going to use Postgres pgvector. Then we will use TensorFlow model and libraries, because we are going to use, and that summed up, I didn't intended to use. I don't know, like it's built-in Mac functionality. So TensorFlow model and libraries. Then we will use Node.js. For the web interface, we will use Next.js, just that kind of it makes it easier. And I think Next.js is kind of very, very, very convenient for this small, like actually probably also even big prototypes, but for us, like for a prototype, it's very easy to set up web interface. Then we will use Aiven to host Postgres and pgvector, so it will have already all the support we need, and there is a free tier which you can rely on. We also give you extra credits, so you can use it for whatever you want to use later. But that will be a very fast way for us to bring up a Postgres database. And finally, we will use GitPod. This is just because I know that everyone has different machines, like different systems, Linux, Mac, Windows. Actually, if you could type in the chat, which system do you have? Like, do you have, I wonder if, like, for example, I'm using Mac mainly, but I know that Linux is very, very popular. Windows, I use it in the past a lot, but it has a character when it comes to installing a lot of stuff. So that, like, to avoid all those problems which can come from different systems, and also like from different limitations you have on your computers to run different software, we are going to use GitPod. Oh, I see. So we have Ubuntu and Windows and Mac. Okay, cool. I think you will be fine with GitPod. Great. So we will have 3 steps. First one is to prepare the working environment, kind of like to get the Postgres database and the GitPod running. That will be pretty fast. And then we will move to the core functionality. So we will generate embeddings and find the closest vectors, kind of like to see that it all works, kind of like the backend part, but we will do it with a simple console approach. And then finally, we will add the visual interface and arrange that functionality in the correct order that kind of works efficiently and works way faster. So yes, for the core functionality, so we will do, I will show you all the steps, so you don't have to worry about them. And the only, like, so I prepared the GitHub repository so that it's way easier to copy the lines, or like to kind of not write manually code, even though you can, or you can adjust whatever is there. So thank you, Tips, for posting that link there, and I can show you the repository itself. So I will hide this. So the repository has, it will have for us 2 parts. We will start with the part 1 core, but we will look in the code a bit later. But we first, before we go to PG, because like setting up Postgres will take several minutes. So I want to set it up first, so that while it's being deployed in the cloud somewhere, we can process and do some other stuff. So there is another link which you can click on. This is just to get the Postgres. Oops, no, I didn't intend this to do this. I will do it so that you can do the same copy link address, and I will do it in the incognito window. I forgot about that. And I will sign up so that you see exactly the same steps and it's easier to follow. So I will continue with the URL. So this is for Aiven account. You don't need to provide any credit details or anything like credit card details. Like it's just like a couple of steps. So my name is Olena. I will put my address here. Workshop February. I'll put like this, and then.
Yes, the weird email address is because we want to make sure that we aren't using our work email address quite.
Yes.
Otherwise, it gets confused at us.
And I press register. Now I need to verify the email address, and I'll go and do that. So the email is here. So you will have an email, and you need to activate your account there. I will just print it and put it here, the address. and email confirmed, and get started. So that this is kind of registration step, nothing really complex. Okay, so I will do done, and it brings me to the initial page, and says you
We
don't
should
have
maybe wait for a moment to see if people have got here yet.
Yes.
So if people can say in the chat when they've got through, or if you have a problem, ask and we'll help. And
you know what, tips? I actually noticed that. So I think that it actually bring me, because it's still, I think we have a very smart system. So we try to actually like overcome the smartness, like by saying like, oh, I will actually get the address because I don't see projects right now. When you register, you will see, like for our viewers, you will see a different page here. I'm thinking what to do right now, because it detected that I work for Aiven, and it's like, you actually have like projects. Like,
normally you get asked more questions. Feel free to say you're doing this for personal use or whatever. Samith is asking, is this better than collaborative using clustering? You mean using this Postgres rather than a different mechanism? I'm not clear what you mean. I mean, the reason we're using Aiven's Postgres is partly because we work for Aiven, so that's easy for us, and partly because it saves running up Postgres on your own local computer and installing pgvector, which we need later. And that isn't installed out of the box in Postgres. You need to do something to do that. That would be and that's different. And installing things on different systems, Windows, Linux, Mac, is different in each. So it's easier to use a Postgres that's already there. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, so tips, give me a second. I will do it a bit differently, because I do want to have the same.
Did you use an Aiven.fi address, or did you use an Aiven.io address?
Yes, I am very forgetful.
I didn't notice, I'm afraid.
Don't worry. So I will have to actually no. I'll do it here. Yes. So that's, and now if I close all this. How is the weather tips in England right now?
It's actually sunny. It's I'm just going to look out the window. The skies are sort of pale grey, which is for English weather is not bad. So, but it's still early. It's still only 8:30 here in the morning. So it's sunny, but it may get brighter. It's not raining.
Yeah, I also like heat rain like so much, but I think for us it's kind of right now, it's also like grayish. So I'm doing a bit of a trick right now to have a normal success. And I'll share a screen in a second. So I think this is right now, it should actually work.
So now we can see you'll verify your email. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, cool.
So this is, yeah.
Exactly. So I will put personal here and kind of agree to everything and then say that.
Yes, it guesses what country you're in. If you're in countries with states like the US, it will sometimes guess your state as well. But,
I didn't know that. Yeah, probably because it also matters when you select what like region to run into, because
I think that matters for countries where, if we were paying, which we're not, where the tax is different in different states in the US, for instance.
Interesting. I didn't know.
We're not going to make anyone pay for anything today, don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're going to use the free service. So here you have like all different and all this like based on the different open source solutions. But we're going to use Postgres And you can either select a free trial, and then you can select like a bigger size of machine, so like something adjustable for you. But I also I will go with free plan over here because it will be sufficient for our experiment. And we can create the free service, and then you have actually some extra credits which you can use for playing with other things. Cool. I'll keep it. I will move it to Frankfurt, just that it's a bit closer. I think Frankfurt is closer to me right now. And I will press to create a free service. So, and once I press that, it actually initiates the creation of the free service, but also it asks me a lot of different questions, which I actually don't really need to have. I can press go to service overview, or you can just skip the steps. You kind of don't have to answer any of those, because it's for us it's a bit irrelevant, all those details, even though if you want to put like extra information, this is where you can add those changes in those steps. Or you can change also the settings of the service later in the overview page. But the idea is that you should land on this information, or like this on the page of the service, and here you will have a service URI, you have like database name and all the information which we will need to use when we are going to connect our application to the database, so that we can send the data there. So that's when it comes to Postgres. Lena, Spacewise, Soumith, tell us if the stuff is working, or if you have any troubles, and we can pause and we can help you out. Yes. So that's a part with the Postgres. Let me move back to the GitHub page. And the next step will be to set up the GitPod. Tip, do you think we should give people a bit more time?
I think we should leave it for a moment, but oh no, well, we've got one person says they're in.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Cool.
Anyone else can confirm they're in? It feels a bit wrong not being able to see people for this purpose.
Lena, what is the weather? Like, I asked tips, but what is the weather right now in Delhi? Like, so is it hot? I guess it should be hot. It should be like summerish. Like that's that amount of sun which we never get here. Cool. Yes, and for those of you who didn't use GitPod before, GitPod is a very, very convenient way, because it actually allows you to set up different environments. Like if you're working with Python, or if you're working with JavaScript, it's actually like pretty amazing. So I think I will slowly move on to GitPod. Yep. Okay. So in the step 2, you just can press on the link. And it will open a Git. Actually, wait, I will open it into this separate window, so that I can. Oh, that's amazing.
24 degrees C is a good English summer day, so yes.
Yeah, totally. I feel right now with the global warming in Germany, we have sometimes like very, very high temperatures, but 24 degrees is kind of a summer. It's supposed to be like real summer here. So should be very nice and enjoyable. Cool. So if you click on the setup GitPod on this link, this is just like adds, like for those of you, like you can use GitPod with any of the GitHub repositories you have, and the idea is that you put this GitPod, then you put the kind of this connector, and then you add the URL to your GitHub repository which you want to run in GitPod, and then the rest is magic. I mean, there is never magic in tech. Like in tech, it's just like some kind of engineering work behind, but this is like what it ends up.
So and at this point, they'll get asked to verify with GitHub and things if they've not used GitPod before. So for good people, there is a page on our forum actually about setting up with.
Yes, if
This page from a different workshop, which I should have provided a short link for, I apologize. That actually has instructions for logging into GitPod. If we
if you
ignore
have
the fact it says it's for a different workshop.
Yeah, that's true, because I was logged in before, so probably I don't have it.
It's really quite hard to make GitPod forget who you are. It's really good at noticing you're the same person. So getting back to the new user experience is very difficult.
Yeah. So, and here, so we have a couple of things. I would recommend to keep the suggested VS Code editor in the browser. It means we will do everything in the browser. If of course, if you are a person who used GitPod with VS Code locally on machine, feel free to do it. I'm using it in the browser because then you need to to set up all the extensions if you want to do it in the application on your machine. So browser is the easiest way to go. No settings needed. And then once you have this, just press on continue, and this will create a workspace and start opening that workspace. So running those bytes somewhere on the servers and making it all ready. And this will be the landing page. One thing with GitPod, they really like those tiny fonts, and I don't know, I will make it a bit bigger, but it's okay. That's a bit too much. Tips, I think you can see it, or
I can read that, but I'm a person who likes tiny fonts. So if you're in the chat, complain if you need it bigger. And
yes,
please tell us when you're actually into GitPod.
Yes. And meanwhile, what I want to do, I want to put GitPod so that for those people who are following those steps, watching the video, it's easier a bit. Let me do this magic with the screens. I will try to wait. I will try to overlap and put them together.
Presumably they can open the README in the GitPod as well.
Yes, you can.
It tends to look, it's not as good because it shows the markdown.
Yeah, I think it's pretty okay. I will keep it together because then I can kind of squeeze it here on the left, and we still can see the rest. So hopefully, put in the comments if you have issues with GitPod. We have seen different stuff. So if you have some troubles, we can help you out to solve those. Yeah. So that is the first time with GitPod can require a bit extra effort, but I must admit I wasn't a big fan of GitPod at first, but now actually I really appreciate it. The only thing I wish they would change this from the white to black, this kind of dark colors. That would be way nicer to my eyes. But again, tips actually, I think you prefer those.
I like the light mode, and I discovered there's a terminal mode in GitPod for those of us who use Vim for editing, and that's actually in dark mode. So I suspect there might be a way for changing the VS Code.
I actually say this because in AWS they have the code spaces, which I'm using on a regular basis, and they do have also similar setup, but with visual code, but they use it in the dark, they allow you to use it.
Yes, I must admit, because I like the light mode, I haven't tried to find out how to go into dark mode. So GitPod, so go on.
Go ahead.
I was saying we're just using GitPod because then we all end up in VS Code. We all end up in the same editor, so we can all follow through. Whereas, for instance, if I was on my own machine, I'm using Vim, and if I try and follow along in Vim, what's Elena's doing in VS Code, Visual Source, whatever it is, then I have to translate in my head what is happening. But if we're all using the same editor and it all looks the same, we can just follow along more easily.
And Sebi says that there is a dark mode. Okay.
It also makes it easier to run everything because we can have the same environment. So npm is already set up, for instance, rather than requiring you to install Node on your machine and have the same version of Node.
Oh yes, that's actually true because later for the Next.js, we need kind of a later version of Node. And then if you're running locally and you don't have it, you will have to update all the stuff. Okay, so I'll jump in, but if you have problems, put them in the comments and we will help you out. To explain what we have right now in the project, we have this part 1 core. This is a folder with a lot of different files which we are going to use. If you go to package part, in the package part, you can see what exactly we are going to install. Like we need the universal sentence encoder. This is the model we are going to use for translation. Then the TF.js node. This is a library which we are going to use to run the model and all kind of like do all the functions with it. Then I'm using .env so that we don't really store the credentials in the open way. We put them into .env file. And make runnable will help us with one part where I just want to simplify. Like if you run the code, the JavaScript, the Node.js code, like from the command line, you usually have to type a lot of like those brackets, those like code, like it's kind of a bit ugly. So make runnable just makes it very like cleaner to read. So, but it's like very small utility. And then PG and PG promise will help us to send the data to Postgres. So with this, I think we can kind of start. I need back my terminal. Where's terminal? That's silly. How do I open terminal? Maybe tips. I have a question.
I don't know. Sabi, do you know how to get the terminal back?
I so successfully closed it. I actually like in different. I have the usually the icon here to open the stuff. Run on the back. This is not what I wanted. Okay. Oh, wait. If I do like this. Oh, here.
There it is.
Worked.
Okay.
Worked.
I'm going to remember that because I bet I end up in that state.
Yes. Cool. So we are in the main folder. So I tried to put all the commands here and we tested them, and tips actually also improve them so that you totally don't have even like to move anything in the file there. So let's navigate, and yeah, you will need to allow GitPod to send the data if like you are copy pasting the data, and then it will do copy pasting if you need into the terminal. So you need to get into the part 1 core folder, and then you need to do the npm install for all the libraries which we added there. So, and that's will take just a bit. Oh, bring the son to the dentist. Say, good luck. As a kid, I hated dentists. I don't know. I think no one likes dentists, but as a kid, it's like the worst thing ever. Yeah. So once you install the packages, you can run and test that the stuff like is working by running the encode single movie file. So like here in the encode single movie, what I have is taking a single movie and like a sample movie, and then embedding, getting the vector for those for that movie. So by the way, the data set is also part of this. So the data set, the movie plots, oh yeah, it's pretty big, so I'm not going to open it. But the movie plots is just a JSON file with a lot of different movies and a lot of different information. Actually, this is something which I didn't show, that the movie data set we take from Kaggle. And I'm very grateful for Kaggle for a lot of different data sets and stuff. It's really amazing. But this particular one has a Wikipedia movie plots, and it has information about like release year, title, director. But for us, what is actually interesting is the plot itself. Even though the warning is very, very important, like it has spoilers. So like as the recommender, you shouldn't probably show the plot itself, but we will kind of go around that.
It's an old data set, so there probably isn't anything very new that you haven't already had a chance to see.
Yeah, this is very true. So the data set is here. I already put it there, so you don't have to download it, but of course you can do it later and to play with it if you want. Yeah, but what we want to do is, as the first step, is try to like get the vector for a single movie, just to see that kind of our TensorFlow libraries which we installed is working. And here we use the TFGS node, as well as we import the encoder, so the universal sentence encoder and the movie plots themselves. We load the model, and once the model is ready, what we are doing, we are calling the embed function from that model, and we are providing the first movie in the data set. So like, wow, the first JSON object we have there, and we are selecting the property plot. This is where you can also kind of combine, maybe sometimes you want to include the title. I decided like to make it clean, so like to not to include title, just to have the movie plot, so that we have a bit more clean picture, like what exactly it will recommend, and kind of it's not like biased by the title of the movie. Cool. So to run that one, you can just run the node and execute the file. So, and it will go and run the whole file. And it will give some information and then produce us a long vector. So this is a vector, what I was describing, like when we were like comparing like objects, and then we find the location in the multidimensional space. So this is the location of the vector. This is kind of a location in some multidimensional space, those 512. And that should work for you. So if it doesn't, type it and tell us what exactly doesn't work, because again, we have seen different kind of errors, so we most probably will be able to help you. So that's the first step. This is just like, doesn't do much still. We just encoded the single movie, but what we want to do, we actually want to encode all the movies and store that information in Postgres. So now let's go to the Postgres site. And in the Postgres, we would like, for the Postgres, I do have, and if you never worked with JavaScript and Postgres, it's actually pretty nice, I think. Like it's
Yeah.
nothing very, very unusual. So we are going to use JavaScript for like connecting to Postgres database, and even like creating a data in table and there to send our data. So for this, if you go to PG Commons JavaScript file, you will find a lot of different methods. But the first, actually, before that, we have a configuration where we are establishing the connection to Postgres. And what we are doing, we are taking information about the data, the location, the host, the port, then the name of the user and the password. And also we are taking the certificate which we need. But of course, our GitPod right now doesn't know anything about those properties. So for that, you will need to create a .env file. So there is a .env example, just that you know what properties we need to add here. You can either create it, or I will just rename it. I will rename it. So I said also in the GitPod that the .env should not be, never should go into the repository because we really want to avoid committing .env file with the credentials. But the credentials you can take, give me a second, where did I have my, yeah, here it is. So the credentials for the Postgres, you can find on the landing page for your service in Aiven console. And this is where you can take the host information, here it is, and you just copy it, and I will put that host over here. Then you need the port, and finally, not finally, we need the username. So PG name is a username. I probably should have renamed it to something better, and the password. So once you have this information, we know where to connect the server to, but we also need the certificate. And this CA certificate, it's over here. This is another like requirements if you want to establish a secure connection. Download it. I will put it into some kind of save. And I will open it. And now I can just print it. Can I print it? No, I cannot. Give me a second. I'll find the best way. Oops. To put it into the folder. No, it doesn't really work like this. That's my Mac. Give me a second. So the idea is to bring that file into the folder of the part one, so that we have it, we can access it. And it looks like this, like it's just a certificate, a PEM certificate to establish SSL connection. And with this, so you have .env file and you have the CA PEM. So with this, we will be able to connect to our Postgres database, and also we can check that it's actually already is deployed. So like this green circle with one, and it's kind of like running, so everything is good. So we can start using it. And once you have the .env and certificate in place, what you can do, you can try running several commands. So pgvector is already set up in the PG database, so you don't really need to do anything to set it up, but you need to enable, because by default, we don't enable it. And for this, this is actually where we are using this runnable script, so that we can run a command node pg commands enable pgvector, and this should not give me any exceptions, but let's see. Oh yeah, so it doesn't give me any exceptions. It returns empty result because it doesn't really need to return anything.
That command is also, yeah, you've got it there. Sorry, I was just going to say it's also copyable.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know what happens to the screenshots here. I will check that later. But so what we kind of have behind is just this extension, the command create extension vector, and we just trigger that one, and it's ready. So the next stuff which we need to do is to create a table, again, either from the GitHub repository or from the code here. You can see how to create a table, because we need a kind of a table where we are going to store all our movie stuff. So yeah.
Lena has errors. Are they connection? So the most common error is to have something wrong in your .env file.
Yes, Lena, could you share with what is the error says? And I wonder, like, so you should see in your folder 2 additional files, and they are at the top level, like part 1 core, and I see here .env, and I have my username. This will be for you probably the same. Aiven, like admin, admin. Then there is like your password, and there is a host and port. Make sure, and I'm not using any quotes here, so you don't really need quotes.
And the other common mistake, which I know I've done, is to get the ca.pem file into the wrong directory. So it needs to be in the same directory as the .env file.
Yes, they should be next to each other, and the file should be .env called, not .env example, because it looks for the stuff with .env at the end. So try it out. Tell us also, like, if it doesn't like work, tell us the error. We can together try to investigate it.
We know these are the common errors because I know I've made both of them.
Yes, so. Hopefully. And some of those errors, like typos, and then sometimes it's so like painful. Like, oh, I spent so much time, and it's like totally was a typo. But some errors are like, yeah, also the real issues. So you need to create also a table. So like if you run the node pg commands create table, this will create a table. Again, this is kind of like runs behind the scenes. Oh yeah, rename it to .env. Just like rename it in it's easiest. Just like if you press here and you press the contextual menu, there is a rename function, like rename like call, and just rename it, remove the .env, and that should work. Yes, go back to the PG commands. So here behind like in every of the commands, we just kind of establish the connection, and then we run the SQL command. And here it's just like creating the plots, and I I know the structure of the data, so that like that's kind of why those properties. But one additional properties which we have is this embedding property, which is of type vector, and this is exactly like that kind of Postgres knows that this will be a vector field. And the vector fields, and then we can compare different vectors between each other and apply all the magic. I like the word magic, but again, this is like all the hard work of pgvector there. Yes, and then it should work. So like again, like if you are seeing the empty array, that means that no response given, but there was no error. And for the create table, again, you don't really have any response. So that should be like that. And if you want to run the kind of, okay, like just to make sure that we see that stuff is working, we can also run this get number of movie plots. Just it should return 0 because we didn't add anything. So like, and then you can see that there was a count 0. Nothing really. It's like we are getting all the stuff from movie plots, and there is nothing. Supposed to be like this because we are going to add our movie plots in the next step. And for the next step, if you go to the file process all movies, that's probably the most interesting file in this part of the project. And this is where we are doing a couple of things. First of all, again, we are preparing our Postgres. We are connecting to Postgres, so we need some configuration. But in this time, we are not using the Postgres library. So we are using one additional library. We are using Postgres Promise. And Postgres Promise allows us to insert multiple rows. So we define the columns, and we define the set of rows, because we are going to process, I don't remember how many, 35,000 movies, if I'm correct. So we don't want to send it line by line. We want actually kind of to bulk it up and kind of send it together to make it a bit faster. And for this, we are using this Postgres Promise library. And then again, we are taking the movies. You can, like, if you're experimenting for yourself, you can also slice and kind of take a smaller part of the movies. But I'm going to run it with the whole array of the movies. And the next function which we need is to store in PG. This is where we are using this PG promise, defining the columns using the column set, and then defining the rows, and finally creating a query where we insert rows into columns, and executing the query. And it actually should return like nothing as a result if everything goes fine. And that all, like this function, we are using again within the kind of where we have availability of the model. So we are all loading the model, then we are taking our data in batches. So this, like, you can increase the batch size, and depending on the powerfulness of the computer you run it on. We are all, like, I assume that a lot of you are running it right now in GitPod. I put the size 150 because I think this is where GitPod still doesn't complain that we are using too much memory or power. On my local machine, I can run it in bigger batches, but here, this is like where it just will process. Here, the model will process all those movies together. And we need also to store that information in the memory. So you can keep it 150. Later, you can also experiment with, like, the idea is that we don't really want to have too little information that we process at a time. We want to make it like more like kind of like throughput of the data we process to increase, but at the same time we don't want to give it too much information so that GitPod either fails or we just wait too long to realize that we have an error. So with this size, I think we will have a constant feedback that stuff is working. And this is where we are running the model, getting the embeddings, then combining the movie information with the embedding, and then sending this all to store in the database. So let's run it and see how it works. So you can also run as like node process all movies JS, so like kind of like from the command line. That's probably the easiest way. And it start processing. So it should give this information. Oh, actually, it's interesting. So it actually gives me the error about the free memory, exists of free space memory. While it's not too late, I will stop this right now. All right, it stopped giving me the message. Okay. I am like, when I see this error, and this error comes from TensorFlow, and it says allocation of the stuff exceeds 10% of free system memory. So
But
this
that's
is,
just a warning, though. I think the
yes,
W means it's a warning, so it's just saying you might be using more resources than you like.
yeah.
I think.
This is where exactly like what like why
Yeah.
I was saying like this 150, like maybe also like GitPod load can be different. So yes, it doesn't really give me more of those warnings. I would prefer not to see them, to be honest, because I don't know like what kind of stuff GitPod will do to cut the resources. But let's risk it. Like we say this, I'm not sure tips if you say this in English as well. Who doesn't risk doesn't drink champagne. I
Oh,
don't know.
that's. No, we don't quite have that.
It's
I'm
a
sure
weird
there's an
phrase.
equivalent, but I don't think we've got anything quite that elegant.
Yeah. So I don't like champagne that much, but let's risk and keep it like this. And let's see. Lena and others, how is it going? Did you manage to start running these commands? Or if you have any issues, again, tell us. Yeah, because this will take us a bit of time. I mean, like 10 minutes. I see that like right now I have like almost 5,000. And maybe this will be like a good point, maybe in a couple of minutes. Let's make sure. Yeah, or beer. Who doesn't risk doesn't drink beer. I see. Sorry. An icon. Yeah. Um, Tips. How about we still stay here? Like, so we promise to have a break, and also I don't want people to stuck next to the computer. I want them to be able to get another cup of coffee or whatever, or maybe it's like tea after lunch, so we can have a short break.
Yeah.
And then we can come back in 10 minutes. And if like I will be still here, maybe I'll also like grab another coffee. But then if someone has issues, still put them in the chat. But for the rest, if your stuff is running, then we can. I have them like a beautiful slide for that. Wait, do I have a beautiful slide for that break? Yes, coffee break. So and for those, so Lena, if it's running, you can go grab some tea or something else, and like let's say we will continue at what time, Tips? In 10
Well,
minutes.
in 10 minutes, I think. So I make it 2 minutes to the hour now, so maybe at 8 minutes past or so. That's being very precise, isn't it?
Yes, whatever your hour is, let's meet like 10 minutes after that hour, because like for me it's right now 9:58.
But I think in India, you're half an hour shifted, so that makes no sense to you at all.
That's complete. I want to know more about it, but yeah, that's a different story. Yeah, so like in 10 minutes, approximately
Okay.
in 10 minutes.
I'm going to go and get that coffee, just like Elena was suggesting, so I'll be back in a moment.
Hello again.
Hello again. I now have my coffee, so.
Nice. Me too. I put it's actually gets a bit colder in this room, so I added something hot so that I have in my hands. Kind of funny. So I'll have a sneak peek. Let me see how many items. I think I still 6,000 items to go.
Oh, it's still going.
That fast. I think it's like on I think there are a couple of ways to make it maybe run in parallel, as well as having a bit stronger, bigger machines would be faster.
It's difficult, yes. I think we can probably find someone to ask about such things. I'm afraid it's not my expertise at all. And it varies, of course, if network speeds and how busy GitPod is, I would imagine, as to what slice you get of your machine and so on.
I do believe that here we are limited mainly by GitPod.
Yeah, I think so.
And also vertical scaling would help a lot. But again, this is still to process 35,000 items.
It's not bad if it only takes 15 minutes or so, to be honest.
But some models work faster than others. I tried a variety of different models, not for the embeddings, but for the semantic search and kind of classifications. And I noticed that some way faster because they probably smaller models. And especially if we need to create 512 embeddings here, it's probably way more expensive than to create 300 embeddings. So I think it's a lot of things here and there which will affect the performance.
Because the underlying TensorFlow stuff is being done in something like C or something, isn't it? So it's being done in a compiled language.
Probably
that should be independent of whether we're doing it in Python or Java or JavaScript. I think the actual work of creating the embeddings.
Yeah, it's very true. I see that Spacewise says that it's warmer here, there in India, and I can totally guess it. I think it's kind of funny how the best temperatures for humans, and everyone has their own preferences, but it's kind of limited. I, for example, don't like it when it's too cold, but also I'm not doing well when it's too hot. So the favorite range of degrees, I don't know, for me, it probably will be 23 till 28, maybe. I don't know.
I probably need it a bit colder than that. I don't 28 is getting a bit hot for me, but then that's the English for you, I think.
Yeah. I grew up actually I'm from Ukraine, so our summers are very, very hot. Comparing to Germany, our summers are significantly warmer, and I'm used to hot temperatures. But winters can be very cold, and winters in the past had a lot of snow, and it could be minus 20 in winter and plus 35 or something in summer. That was something I remember from childhood. But then it's when it's very hot, you can go and swim in a lake.
Oh gosh. Not the sort of thing that's available in Britain much these days.
Why so? Is it you don't have...
so that most of the... Well, I, for instance, live in a very agricultural area. So the whole... If you think about Britain as this body with a tummy bulge, and I live in the middle of the tummy bulge, sort of the southeast, and the whole of that area is agricultural. So there aren't really expanses of lakes or wild country or anything nearby. There's the occasional carefully curated small forest that's sort of kept as a place to go and visit. If you go into other areas, you get more wild land, but most of the UK most of Britain, particularly most of England, has been sort of urbanized or is agricultural or just generally not very wild.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me, even visiting Germany, that there were more areas you could go and get to walk in wild country, even though Germany should be much the same. I think the spread is different. Because when we stayed in Glasgow in Scotland, that's a big city, but within half an hour or an hour, we could get out into into countryside where there are lochs and lakes and so on. Although they can be a bit cold to swim in.
But to be honest, like
And,
here in Germany, we have a lot of lakes and they are cold. For my preference, they are kind of like not nice to swim in, but doesn't stop the
No.
local people because they love it. Like in summer, you have that all the lakes are total like there is very difficult to find space. Like people are totally fine. Like for example, the Nordic Sea is the Baltic Sea. Like here in Germany, it's called a bit different, but the Baltic Sea. For me, it's cold. I still go and swim there, but it's like freezing cold. It can have like, I don't know, 18 degrees, 17 degrees in summer, depending on part of the summer.
Yeah, my wife grew up sort of swimming in the Scottish lochs, and we've got a friend who grew up swimming off the coast in the southwest of England, so in the Atlantic essentially. And so they're happy to swim in really cold water. And whereas I get into really cold water and start shivering and can't swim at all. So,
yeah, that's very true. Tell us in the chat also if you like swimming and what is your favorite place and favorite temperature of the water to swim. I'm curious how the kind of
water that's too warm, isn't it? So my favorite is, as a family, we used to go take the children to Ibiza, to one of the islands in the Mediterranean. To the family side of that, and the beaches there, and swimming in the sea in the Mediterranean is very nice. So it's not too cold, and it's not very tidal, it's not very rough, and you can swim out quite far and still be safe.
No sharks, I guess.
No sharks. Like, some years jellyfish, and then you have to not do it. But
that's very true. But also, I think our jellyfish in the Mediterranean is not very bitey.
No, they're you don't want to swim amongst them, but they're not going to kill you or anything.
Yes, because they're very I don't like. They're like spiders. Like I don't mind them. It just I don't want them to move very close to me.
Yes, I understand that. I'm kind of with you there.
Good point about let us know, Lena, Heikki, Spacewise, if you have the data processed, put a message in the chat so that we know that everything worked fine for you. Because right now, this is kind of the bulk information right now will be in Postgres, and now we will be able to use the data and find similarities. And for that, I prepared also a JavaScript file, which we can use. I think we can continue slowly and yes, because I will still want to explain what is in this file. So right now we have the embeddings for all the vectors. We can even check, for example, we can run, on my machine, I do have it. So we have this number of movies. So I can run this and show
the same command we ran earlier. Yes.
So yeah, exactly. So this is so as a number of movies, it's there. Oh, cool. Happy to hear that for Lena and Heikki, it's all done. So yeah, so we do have all that information in the database with all the properties which we have, including the embedding. So now what we can do, we can take some kind of a search suggestion. So and if you open the search for nearest vectors file, then you will see that here, if you scroll down, we take some kind of a test phrase, and I put here a lot of cute puppies because I think almost everyone likes a lot of cute puppies, though not everyone has to like puppies, but yeah. So puppies or cats or whatever, you can put any phrase here or amazing weather, whatever you have. And what we are doing, we are making a request to Postgres. And we requesting the data from the movie plots. We are ordering the data by how close the embedding for each movie is to the embedding for our test for our vector from the test phrase. So we are comparing our test vector, the cute puppies, to all the embeddings in the database, and we select the top 5, the closest, the kind of the vectors which are of the movies which are closest to the test phrase. So if I will run this, and I can just run it again by copying. I'm the person who makes huge amount of typos, so I prefer to copy stuff. So then we again run the model, and then we retrieve that like those records. So it's a lot of things, especially like if I show the vector itself. But if I scroll to the top, then we have the first suggestion is the secret life of pets, which kind of fits for the dog. Then we have, what else we have? We have the Clifford's really big movie. I never watched that one.
This is I think this is from a children's television program, the movie of that. It's a giant dog, house-sized.
Yes.
I think.
Then other stuff. But what is interesting actually, like, so I was searching for puppies. If I will take puppies as they are, then I actually have it only mentioned in the puppy tail, which is at the end of the suggestions. So I don't have like the puppies, and okay, it might be smarter to kind of can know about puppy. So, but also like with puppies, I don't have like puppy mentioned in all the movies. So the model knew that if it's Labrador or if it's a dog or something, then like puppy is kind of related to the dog. For the kind of like, I know that we have amazing other search capabilities which we used before, but there for synonyms we always had to keep kind of some dictionaries or be creative how to like find the connection between a dog or a puppy or a king or a queen, like some kind of things, versus here the model helps us to create those connections and knows that those words are kind of related to each other. So cool. I see that for everyone it all works. Run the search for nearest vectors just to see that that also functions well for you. And with this, we can move to the visual part. So this is like we are done with the terminal window, and we are going to now create a simple visual interface. We are going to do a couple of optimizations there because like you can see that every time we are running stuff, we are loading the model and it takes time. And also with the PG client. So we are going to fix that in the next step. And for that, you can rely on the code pieces, which are already here in the GitHub repository. So I will clean my terminal and I will run this command, which will create us another folder, part 2 full stack. This is where we are going to put the Next.js project. And we will install that Next.js application by running this command npx create next application latest, which will load the library and then like the package. And I will say, yes, please install the following package so that we can then run the next, create next application functionality. And here you can select the name you prefer to have. I'm using the movie recommender, but you can select your other favorite title. We are going to use TypeScript a bit. I'm not going to use ESLint because I just want to simplify on that part. We are going to use Tailwiz CSS. It will help us to make it a bit easier with arranging the styles. I will go with the default one without any CRC directory. And the important part here, please do not use the up router. I know it's recommended, but I had issues with TensorFlow and up router and kind of other things. It was a bit of a mess. So I want to make it for us a bit more simple and not run into those issues. So when it asks, would you like to use up router, select no. By the way, all the options again are in the GitHub repository if you would like to come back later and see what I used. And would you like to customize the default import ls? No, we don't want to do it. And it's right now creating a new Next.js application. This will take a bit of and it created, so we have set. So to run it, you can run the npm run dev, and it will start the application. So like to try that it works. Okay. Yes. So this I always forget. So we are right now, when you create it, it will create a folder with the movie recommender. That's why I got the error, because I tried to run npm run the dev, but I was outside of the folder. So move into the folder. And then if you run the npm run dev, it will start the development. And it will ask me if I want, so the service is available on the port 3000. I want to open it in the browser. So I will select the browser and will run it in the browser next to my GitPod window. And this is a landing page, some very nice UI for... Lena, what if you will just delete the folder and you recreate it again? I mean, yes, I don't have the CSS classes. It will be easier to use it with Tailwind CSS, because we are going to use the code and it's way easier for you will be to copy. But I'm not sure, because it will install the libraries. So either you need to install it right now manually if you said no to Tailwind CSS. But I would actually, if I were you, I would just delete at this point of time the folder. Let's see.
That's the approach I'd do, I must admit. So I'd delete part 2 full stack and then start again.
You can either delete
You go ahead. Speaking as someone who did software development for a very long time, that's the approach I'd take. It's the clumsy and simple approach. It's most guaranteed.
Yeah, either delete the whole part 2 full stack and then you kind of recreate the folder, or delete just movie recommender, like this kind of the folder which was created with Next.js, and then just run again the Next.js. It will be easier than try to install additional libraries, because I mean, like, all the compatibilities. Yeah, happens.
We should give them a moment to catch up again, but yes.
I think, yeah, they're totally so by the end, you will see this layout. We are going to remove all the layout and add our very creative, very ugly at first layout. But for now, you have this. So yes, let's have several minutes so that everyone can run it. Yeah. I do like actually Next.js. I never used it in production, so I worked a lot with React, but we were creating manually, we were responsible for write the CSS code, and of course we had all the granularity for all our functionality, so we never really use any frameworks or something like this. But it's so kind of convenient when all the building blocks are created for you with just one command, and then everything is ready to use. So I appreciate
someone like me who barely understands JavaScript, it's invaluable, because it gives you so much framework. I can understand what Elena is showing us, even if I'm not good at JavaScript.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good thing.
Space-wise, so for the app router, when I tried it a couple of months ago, and it was still, even though it says a recommended feature, it was not fully production ready. And I did have some issues with setting it up and having a smooth integration with TensorFlow. I am not sure how it is right now. You can always try. But so the code snippets which I provide later are relying on the older approach. So then you will have to modify it. So I would probably go without the modern app router, but it's up to you, because maybe you also will figure out a better solution there than I was able to. So up to you. I even like at that point of time, I even Googled, and people were also complaining that like, yeah, this is the old one first. But again, it's like with all the new functionality and new stuff, eventually we need to start using it. So I think I will slowly go on. When you will deploy and then you have your page, there is one thing which you can try, because we are going to use this, like to have a bit of a kind of backend for front end files. And there is already an example. So if we like kind of run the API hello. API hello, that should actually tell us something. Yeah, it gave us some kind of response. And this this part works because there is in pages, in API, there is a hello file which takes some kind of request information and modifies the response information. And this is what we are going to use, because we need some part of our full stack application where we can take the information from the user, so something like cute puppies, like a phrase, like a search phrase, and then make a request to the Postgres database using that information, and then get that information from the Postgres database and display the results, like the recommendations on the UI. So, and this is where we are going to use this API folder, and we will create our own API router, something similar to hello, but different. So to be honest, I'm just going, so we need, I called it, wait, give me a second, I'll find so that we can follow also. Yeah, I called it recommendations. Yes, here it is. So I will just rename to have it recommendations. So the existing one, or you can just delete and add a new one. I think renaming stuff is faster here in GitPod. So and I will delete everything. Like we don't really need that content because we are going to add it in a second. It's the content is here in the GitPod. It's in the GitHub repository, so you can copy it. So we can import all the libraries which we need. It's right now underlined that we don't have it installed. That's fine. We will install it in a second. So first it's like the dependencies. Then we need to connect to Postgres as we did. So this is something which we already did in the past. But we are going to kind of recreate all that functionality here in the full stack part. And then we need to utilize both Postgres and the model. So, and this will look like this. So let me just show the code to you. So yeah, so the dependencies, and here you can recognize our universal sentence. Okay, this is the type, I think. Like, so yeah, we include the encoder again. We import the Postgres, and then we create the configuration to connect to the Postgres. We are going to copy right now also the files which we need for the Postgres connection in a second. But then we also have some kind of a global Postgres client, so that we don't have to recreate it with every call. We create it only once. So this global PG client. And if it doesn't exist, then we create a new one. If it exists, we reuse the existing one. So in this way, we also save a bit of time on during the request to Postgres. And the same for the model. So we don't reload, because by default, like if you will start like loading the model, it will make a request actually to the intranet and load the model. We don't want to do it too frequently. We want to do it once and then to reuse the model later. And in the handler itself, this is the core of this API router. In the handler itself, what we are doing, we are taking the request information. For now, we will start with empty. We don't have anything in request. Later, we are going to have the user, whatever user types, we are going to use as a part of the request. So we are going to take the information from the request. But for now, the request is empty, just for us to make it work with some test data. And the response is something which we are going to modify to produce like the information which we get from Postgres for the recommended, for the similar movies to our test phrase. And the test phrase, we are going to use something like cat or whatever you can put. I probably like all my test stuff is like related to animals. You can put something else. You can put like coffee or whatever. So here we are going to get our model. We are going to create the embeddings. And then we are going to make a request to Postgres, similar to how we did it through the terminal by selecting the movie plots ordered by the how far or how close the embedding of the movie is to the embedding of the search request. And we will retrieve the closest 5 movies to the search request and return this and visualize it. Like not visualize it, like we will return this as a part of the response. So we will put it as a JSON and put the PG response rows there. So this is still lacks several things. First of all, we don't have the libraries. So the libraries you will need to install because we need to install the TensorFlow, the PG, and the rest. So I think I do have
just there, yeah.
Exactly. So that will be like, you can of course like do it one by one, but it's way faster to install. So I'm going to stop my server here. This is Control-C for those of you who don't know how to stop it. Control-C, and then I'm going to, or at least Control-C on Mac, and I'm going to run this npm install, and we are going to install the model, the libraries to work with those models, that model, and PG and .env. So everything which we will need for like connection with the model and Postgres. So, and that then should work. Lena, Spacewise, Heiki, tell us if the stuff works, if the stuff doesn't work, so that we know if we need to wait a bit longer. Cool, but for me, everything is installed. So this is the part for the libraries. Another part now for the Postgres. Remember how we created the .env folder, .env file, and the STA PAM. So we still like, this is our totally different project right now. So we can't really read it from the old one, but we're going to copy those files. And here, tips added a very handy commands so that we don't have to use the user interface and pull the items. So here it will copy from the part 1 core, the .env file, and the same we do for CAPAM and put it into the movie recommender. So once you did that, you should be able to see the CAPAM and .env exactly as they were, same database, like you just open it here. Like we are going to use those right now. And this is almost it, except of one small part. But I wonder if you should give a bit of time for everyone to catch up. Let's give another minute. Because I think we are almost ready, like with the backend part, and then we will experiment with the front end. But these all manipulations might be a bit confusing, so that everyone can do it.
Yes, this is where it's useful to be in a real room where we can see people and they can put their hand up if
Yes.
they've finished. Although even then, people don't like doing that. No one likes saying, "Hey, I'm done."
I'm also personally very shy. Usually, like if I have an error, I'm like, I'm doing something stupid, which is actually often it's not. And it's like often that if one person has that question or has that issue, that means that actually someone else in the room also has the same issue and
Oh,
they are
yes.
very shy to ask.
But they don't. My trick is to make myself sit near the front, which I don't like doing, because then I feel I have to say something if there's the thing because I'm near the front.
Yeah,
If I
that's
sit at the
true.
back, I kind of keep quiet. So
Yeah, that's very true. I kind of also find it like motivation, kind of be a bit more engaged. Yes. So, Lena, Spacewise, Heiki, if you have any troubles or anyone else, like please put it in the chat. We will help you, or I can go again and like repeat if you miss something.
and it's
But
all there on the page, of course, on the GitHub
yeah,
page.
exactly. And it's like you can totally follow just a GitHub repository here. But what I want to do next is like, because we are using this a bit of TypeScript, what we need to do right now, we are missing this type for the movie. Where do I have it? Somewhere I have it, movie. Yes, over here. So the movie object and kind of with the properties, and just kind of to make, if you like, since we are using TypeScript, to put it there. So what I'm going to use, I'm going to create a new file. Wait, can I? This small
This is where
space.
the
A new file, and I will call it movie DTS. This is the extension for the type which we have in TypeScript, and I will copy just as movie. So here we declare type movie, and we export the type, and we have all the properties which we kind of added before into our Postgres database. And now we can.
Here, the mistake that I've made before is put it in the wrong folder, so it has to go in the movie recommender folder.
That's
I know
very
when I'm using the UI, I've created it in the folder above that by mistake.
That's a very good point. I probably, yeah, I don't know like how to do it a bit. Like I
No, that's
think
the best way.
it's a global type, so it would go probably on the higher level. But also we need to now include it. So import type. It does say that it doesn't find. I'm not sure why Visual Studio is so picky, but it does find it. Don't worry. So this is like a bit of I don't know. Maybe I should set up it better, but with default setup, it doesn't really like it tries to say it doesn't see it, but it actually will work fine. Good. So this right now, like this, the API route, we can already test it. So similar to how we did it with the hello route, running it in the service, like the same we can do with recommendations. So let's start again. Run. Wait, was it npm run dev? I think, right, for running it. Yeah, npm run dev to start it. And it's again asks us how we want to start. I will say, okay, open. Actually, I already had it, but let it reload our page. So this is the landing page, but we want to go to the endpoint, the recommendations. If I didn't do any typos, and probably I did.
Was it recommender?
No, actually, okay, I'm wrong. It should go to API recommendations. So API recommendations, because it's located in a, like it's actually also the established like way of working with those. So it should be API plus the name of the file which you selected. And if you go here, this is like right now what it does, like according to our handler code, it will process the data, make a request to Postgres, and then just output the response from the Postgres for the 5 movies which we kind of found similar to what a person is looking for. So, and this is what we have. So this is kind of works. Of course, this is not a beautiful visual interface. So now we want to put this information somehow on the page to bring our API result into the page. And we will use the landing page here from the Next.js. Of course, you can create a bit more sophisticated structure, but landing page is also totally fine for us. And for the landing page, I do have already some examples. So I'm going to clean it. So on the landing page, you can find in index.tsx. This is also part of pages. So if you go to pages and there is index.tsx, this is the main page. This is like, you can modify it, but we're going to delete everything. And we're going to copy what I have in the step 3 front-end integration and put it over here. And this will give us a very simple layout. So let me just explain what we have here. So again, we include our dependency to the movie type. But what we do, we export a function. And in this function, if you look at the layout, and this is how React works. So this is just the way how we write stuff. We return some kind of layout over here where I just have a very simple input section. So this is where we have an input and the button to search. And then we do have the list of items. So kind of a layout where we just can iterate, and we take the movie plots and we iterate over each movie plot and we visualize it on the page. And then there is a thing which we rely in React, which is a state. And this is how we put the data to the movie plot. So the movie plot is populated during the search, like when we run the search. So the search call happens when we submit the form. So here you can see the search on submit. We will run the search function. And the search function will take the information about the event, which is HTML form element, like event based on the HTML form element. And we'll take the entered search, make the request to our API. It is a method, post method. We'll send the entered search and then return the response and populate that response to set the movie plots. So this is a bit like, it looks a bit probably confusing, and maybe I'm not explaining it very well, but this is how React works. So we have a state, we use a method to populate the state. So set movie plots will populate the movie plots. We also use references here to access the search input, and search input is the input element which we have in HTML. And here we said that, okay, please reference to this search input. So this input as a search input, and then we can call it and use that information from it. So this is kind of React basics in under 2 minutes. If you are still confused, don't worry. If you are interested in learning React, you will understand this when you will learn it. There's a kind of basics of React. So, but in any case, so if we right now run this, we are going to get something. So wait, I don't actually want to run the API. So I will go to the landing page. I will go to the main page. And this is the most simple, admittedly very unpleasant user interface, but it does what we need. And you can type something here. Actually, you will not see it because I think I have it white color on the white color. We will fix it in a second. The idea is like to make it ugly but working. But if I press on search, it returns me the movie. And funny thing, I actually typed some kind of rubbish here, like kind of I typed anything like unsensible, but it returned me Garfield because our API endpoint actually uses right now the test phrase. It doesn't really take anything from the request. So if we go to our recommendation TS, the API endpoint to the handler. So here we just embed always information about the cat. We want actually to embed whatever comes from the user interface. So for this, you need to replace.
Should we pause for a moment to let people catch up? Just
Yes,
thinking if they're following along.
I am getting too excited. So,
well, this is the exciting bit where it begins to actually do something.
Yeah, that's true. So yes, Lena, Spacewise, Heiki, and others, please type where you are right now, if you have any troubles, or everything goes smooth, or if you see some errors, then we can help you. Actually, like I was chatting with a friend recently, and we were talking about how the work of front-end developers sometimes underappreciated, because like yeah, like, you just need to put a button and kind of to do that stuff, and how much actually work like to write a good front end takes.
Yeah, I remember when I first came across sort of front-end websites and things, thinking, oh, how much time can that? It's just a page. And even back in the days when people weren't using JavaScript, it was just HTML. Creating a good form is so much work. And so as soon as you add in styling to make it look nice, and then you have functionality to make it do interesting things, it's
totally. And then it's like that on top of it right now, first of all, it should be accessible. Like it should be like for those people who have be bad eyesight or something, it should be like possible still to use it using maybe like some tools which can pronounce the stuff, so they can navigate even without seeing what is on the page. As well as right now we also try to make it like it should work well on whatever size of the screen you have, or if you try to open it maybe on mobile phone, ideally maybe that's the same code which you're using for the big screen. So it's a lot of things to consider.
Yes, I mean there's a lot of testing needed, which people always forget, apart from the design up front.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the days when you could assume you just threw a website together have gone. There's an awful lot more to it than that. Front-end developers is the real skill. And you need to have, and back-end code, no one can see what it does. You can't see it. There's no visual. Of course, front-end code, everyone gets to see the results and tell you why it isn't good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
No one ever says it's wonderful.
I totally agree. This is such a hard work. Do you think we should move on?
I think we should carry on, yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now we were always searching with this request for a cat. Let's take information, because we have the information about the request which comes into the handler as an input data. So if you replace the whole line, and I have it over here in the GitHub repository, but the idea is that we want to take request, then look into the body and find the search object. And the search object we have because we provided that search object. If I go right now to the index.tsx, here in the body of our request to the recommendations API, we provided the search object and we enter it, like we have there entered search input. So that search object then appears in the recommendation, and then we are using that text to generate the embedding and compare that embedding to the movies. So in this way, if I will refresh right now the page, it doesn't get any more beautiful because it's still, but I will put here, I don't know, like let's put the coffee. And I know I really seriously need to fix this white color and the white color for the first example, but let's see. So I pressed enter, and then we got several ideas. Okay, yogurt-like white substance bubbling out of the ground. That doesn't sound like a coffee, but there are some kind of similarities. Maybe like there is more coffee there later. So we do have different ideas, and it's not about the cats. So you can totally like imagine that this is actually, what if I will search for London?
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Okay, we have a pair of card thieves flee Las Vegas for London. So, but London is still as a keyword, not really like the semantic search. But we'll come to that a bit later. Let's right now fix this ugliness.
So one I used earlier was Green Lantern, which is a
Green
Marvel superhero. I seem to remember that there aren't any Green Lantern movies in there, but it found some superhero movies, I think.
Green London or London?
Lantern, Lantern, as in a light.
Wait. Okay, this one, right? Okay.
So that, oh, that's not a good search. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have searched for that one.
Anyway, there are different options, but let's go back to the layout and make it better, because I can't really like type in white text on the white. It's embarrassing. I really should fix it. But that thing, let's replace it, and I will show also the usage of the CSS that we can do with Tailwind CSS. So whatever you have in the index.tsx, you can replace it with the example which is in the GitHub repository. You can also kind of like do your design and your code, because I guess that you will be better than me in tips. But if you don't want to change anything, you can just also use it as it is. So here there are a couple of changes which we made. So first of all, the layout will look different. Actually, let me just run it. Yeah, so this is how it looks. So we have also the text search, and here we can type I don't know. Let's go with cats. I don't know, like a fluffy cats, and then search. And you can see that this kind of the search icon is added. We added it by introducing another state variable, which is called isLoading. So, and this is how we do it. When you start searching, you set isLoading to true. And then when the results are found, then you set the isLoading as false, and you display the movie plots. So this is a kind of a way of indicating that something is going in progress. And its loading itself is an SVG, which kind of can move stuff. SVGs are amazing. Also to make it a bit more pretty to the eyes, we now use a lot of different styles, classes from the Tailwind. And here we have the, like, for example, you can use the class, like the easiest one, for example, absolute. But this is just indicates that it should be an absolute position of the object. But then you can kind of have the text SM, which means a small text, or to have the border, or have the background of the gray color, and so on. So the Tailwind CSS is amazing because it really simplifies. If you don't really know how to write CSS, then you can just put those predefined classes instead of putting the CSS and then kind of experimenting with those, which is, again, if you are not a front-end developer, CSS probably is a bit can be confusing. So that's kind of helpful. And this way, like, you can play more with the search, but now you can search for whatever you would like to find, and then see what kind of movies you can have. Yes. So I think that's the main part when it comes to the TensorFlow and JavaScript. I promise that we will cover a bit like JavaScript versus Python when it comes to the vector search and in general to AI. So I really enjoyed using TensorFlow for AI and kind of like working with JavaScript, but JavaScript doesn't offer a lot of models that they're ready for use. So like TensorFlow was the one which is the most frequently used with JavaScript. Versus, to be honest, when you look at Python and the amount of models, if you just go to the Hugging Face and then you search for some model, I don't know, let's find something, classification. And I will see. So like you can see, like for classification, it has 3,700 something model, which you can use. Majority of them are working with Python quite nicely. We can go with sentiment analysis here, and you can also see how to use that model. And there are like some examples. And this is Python. I'm like, it took me a bit of, I'm not a Python developer. So, but this kind of like, there are such a bigger range of the models and of possibilities. And Python in generally is being used for data science for way longer time. So here I see that JavaScript is growing. It's been, we learn like we are doing more and more stuff. And I'm quite sure with popularity with AI, we will see JavaScript adapting all those cool features which Python already has. I find it's kind of like when I'm looking at JavaScript, Java, and Python, of course, like they're the king of AI and all possible things you can do with AI. Still, it shouldn't discourage you to use TensorFlow with JavaScript, and it works nicely. Maybe there is indeed like limit to the models you can use, even though TensorFlow has other models instead of like encoder. So you can also use those for other use cases. So that would be my opinion on that. But
yes,
I mean,
as a Python programmer by preference, I think it's really just a coincidence that Python happened to get into that space early and be lucky with people adopting it. But JavaScript is so popular and so important as a language. I'm sure it's going to grow its support for AI very fast.
Yeah, exactly. I think like no one.
There's nothing special about Python in this space that makes it better in some way. So
Python is amazing. Also, I really appreciate.
I like Python, but yes, yeah, but it's not a. You can't say one programming language is better than another in this space. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I think it's also like the domain where the language is used. And I think some years ago, like people wouldn't really like, or like some significant amount of years ago when JavaScript was already kind of popular, but like using for backend was kind of a weird thing. And now we are using like a lot of projects are written, and it's actually very, very powerful. And with TypeScript, you no longer have that amazing freedom to do all the crazy stuff, which may be for better for the production code, but still, like you have a lot of options with JavaScript, and I think like JavaScript will go to move to conquer new areas and be one of those.
It's still preeminent in the front end world, which makes it very natural to use it in the way we've been using it today, and it's nice to be able to use the same language all the way through.
That's very true.
That's a big advantage. Yeah.
And for the models, also like another option, which I think is quite valuable, because sometimes we want to actually have some APIs. Sometimes you don't want to run your model; you want to just rely on the APIs, and then you can use those from the JavaScript. Of course, like that kind of a bit of a cheating, but not everyone wants to run their models locally, or like not locally. You can run those models also like in the clouds, AWS or Google or others. So yeah. So I guess this is actually, did we cover? I think we covered everything, and we
covered everything we promised. We should do the traditional here are useful links.
Oh yes, thing. I would have totally forgotten about this.
Do you want me to go through those? Because so I've already put a reference earlier to our forums. I'll put the link again. So we have a community forum. Yes, there it is. So we have a community forum where you can go and ask questions that are related to all sorts of things. Obviously, Aiven stuff, but also if you want help with this workshop or anything related to anything else we know about. Do you want me to carry on, Elena?
So yes, so those links and tips just
I'll
maybe
put all of those in the chat. So yeah,
Yes, that would be helpful. And for the, because I wanted to move to the feedback, or do you want to?
Well, the Dev Center is, so the Dev Center, I'm just putting the link in there. That's where we have a lot of, our Developer Center is where we have a lot of technical articles that go into depth about a variety of things that you might do. Again, they're mostly about that you can use Aiven for those, but they're mostly about addressing a topic that's of interest to anyone who's doing anything with data, and particularly streaming data. There's a newsletter from Aiven. You had the option of accepting that when you were creating your account. If you didn't choose to opt into that, you can opt into that. I think it's rather a nice newsletter. I certainly read it. And there's a link here to our future workshops as well, which I'm just putting in. Our next workshop in 2 weeks' time will be this same workshop at a different time of day that's catering more to our North American audience. So it'll be later in our day. And we'll be swapping roles. So I get to do this with Elena helping me, which will be fun. I will definitely need the help. And then on 27th of March, we'll have a 2-hour version of our Kafka Python workshop, where we'll be going into a bit more depth than we've done in the past on how to use Kafka with Python. The Python code, again, is all provided. So if you're not a native Python user, it should still be helping to learn about how to use Kafka, and a little bit of using Flink to change data as it's streaming past you. If that doesn't mean anything to you, come to the workshop. Do you want to talk about feedback, Elena?
Oh, yes, because we always experiment with these workshops, and we try to find what works, what doesn't work. So if you can leave feedback, doesn't have to be good. If you didn't like something, we appreciate actually learning about those things. Or if you like something, also tell us that, so that we know that we need to do more of that. So we would really appreciate your feedback. Yes. So and thank you everyone for joining. I know it has been it's 2 hours, so it's pretty long, and I'm happy that everyone stayed. And so it was great.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Elena.
Thank you, Tips. And everyone, to have a great day, or the rest of the day, because for some of you it's already afternoon. And hopefully we'll see you in some future workshops. So that have an eye on the future topics and join us again.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.